I am not an expert in criminology or policing or law enforcement in general, but I know murder when I see it. I don't know how many days old it is. It might be like 5 days old right now or so, but like the murder of Sonya Massey in her home, I saw the footage of the police officers in Illinois that shot her over a pot of boiling water.
Her identification. She then goes to move a pot of boiling water from her stove when she's heard saying, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus."
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
I rebuke you in the name of
You
Jesus.
better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Sangamon deputy Sean Grayson pulls out his gun as she apologizes and ducks.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot!
We are pausing the video as Deputy Grayson then fires his gun 3 times. He later indicates he shot her in the head.
We got a headshot wound to the female. Headshot wound to the female.
Last week, authorities fired Deputy Grayson and charged him with murder.
Like, you could clearly look at the video and see that those dudes were not in any danger. This lady is talking to them coherently. She's sitting down. The cops tell her to go to the stove and take off the pot of water. She gets up immediately. And because she says the Christian slogan, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," she is gunned down, murdered, done. You remember a while back, you had Amber Geiger, the police officer who went into the wrong apartment and shot a black dude because he was in his apartment, right? She thought that she was at her apartment, but she was in the wrong apartment. Goes into a black man's home, thinks it's hers, and shoots him. You know, and then there's countless other cases where police officers will show up to a home where the owner of the home had called in because they thought that something was awry. The cops come and kill the owner of the residence or the tenant of the residence. This happens like way too much. It should never happen. And my thing is like, okay, you got guys like Ben Crump, who is always on the scene when these kinds of things happen. And I do a lot of reading on this kind of stuff. There's kind of a handshake deal between district attorneys, state attorneys, and the state. You could call it the criminal justice conglomerate. The lawyers know the rules, the judges know the rules. The only people who don't know the rules are the people who are getting caught up in the system. It's people like you and me. Most people don't know the rules. They don't know law. They don't study it. So they're not even sure what's going to happen. And I haven't personally looked up Ben Crump's cases to see what the civil awards have been to the families of people that he's represented, or if anything has been awarded to some of these families. I was reading some of Johnny Cochran's work from his Life of a Lawyer book, and he talks about how he's seen cases where the state or the cops were guilty and they would still lose the case because the jury is rigged. You're supposed to be tried by a jury of your peers. Well, if you live in a place where there's a lot of white people, and those are the ones who get selected for jury duty because they're registered to vote, they're not felons most of the time, and voting is tied to whether you get requested for jury duty, as far as I understand. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that happens, and we don't even know if these lawyers are able to really get everything that these families deserve. You just killed the working life potential of a human being. You just killed the essence of life, you know, and you snuffed it out because you were stupid, because the lady said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Like, see, so these are cultural things that these police officers don't understand, right? And it's the same thing in a lot of these popular institutions where they're all white run and they don't understand black culture. They don't understand black society, right? So Cochran mentioned this too in his book, that we need more black lawyers. We need more black police officers. We need more black people that are tied into state mechanisms. I even think it's true for tech. We need more black programmers because these are people who are programming with an eye towards what black people deal with. These are people who are adjudicating the law with an eye towards what black people deal with. I remember Cochran gave an example about how he was in a courtroom one time, and I can't remember the exact detail, but it was something where a witness was getting examined and they said something that wasn't familiar to the jury because they were a black witness. From what if I recall the story correctly, Cochran, because he was a black lawyer and knew what it meant, was able to explain to the jury what the witness was talking about. From my memory, that helped him to go on and win that case. And it's unfortunate. We shouldn't have to make ourselves understood. We're human beings. Black people are human beings. There's no way that if those cops were sitting in a room with a white woman and she went over to the stove to take off some boiling water and she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," that she would have been shot. There's just no way. I'm not saying white people don't get gunned down by police. I'm saying that if we want to talk about percentages, like how white people love to say that black people represent a higher percentage of the crimes for their population size. Well, in the same sense, black people are a higher percentage of the innocent victims that are gunned down by white people based on the percentage. You know, white people should be killing way more white people than black people based on the percentage of the population size, right? We're a smaller population size, less of our people should be dying who are innocent and haven't committed any crimes. We could even take this to like the death penalty. You know, Johnny Cochran was vehemently opposed to the death penalty under all circumstances. You know, it doesn't matter what you did, the answer isn't to kill somebody. So if that's the case, we should have this kind of motto when we go places, right? Now, police officers have to be on guard because they have to be trained well and all of that. I understand that completely. But what we don't understand is when you give somebody the authority to take the life of another and then you protect that person when they do that unjustly, you're setting up an entire system, an entire network, and an entire ethos of kill, 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 ask questions later. Kill, kill, kill first, ask questions later. And it's the craziest thing. You know, we know, and see, this is the whole deal with some of Project 2025. The idea is that Trump is going to be giving more immunity to police officers for misconduct. For us, it's murder, it's death, it's the end of a life. For them, it's, oh, we were doing our job. And so here's the thing, you got to think about this from a higher level. If there's a cop who shoots a black kid, right? Maybe let's say this black kid was like smoking some weed or had a license to carry in a state that allows people to have guns. Police see this, they say, oh, this is maybe they get a call that there's a report or a disturbance, and they show up and start shooting the first people on site. The cop kills somebody from the black community or from a minority community. Like, the worst thing that happens is the cop gets fired and he gets tried. Maybe in a civil case, the state pays some money to the family. But there's no culture that says that what that cop did was wrong. It's like still a slap on the wrist because you still have the entire system, you have the entire force of policing nationwide. So it's the concept. You can't discredit the police force with the public, because if you do, then no one respects the officers. Then when you need them, they're nowhere to be found. But at the same time, if you just give them a free lunch card to go out and shoot whoever the hell they want to shoot, people are going to be afraid to call on police officers unless they're white. Now, here's the thing. If I'm a citizen of this country and I vote and pay taxes and work my ass off and try to do well, I should be able to call the police to my home and they should look at me as an upstanding citizen, as somebody who's trying to help them make the society better. Right? We're in this together. Police and civilians should be working to make the society better. It shouldn't be this idea where like, oh man, well, it's the police now. Like, we got to watch out because they're here or they're coming. Yes, they carry guns. Yes, they're involved in violent situations. And yes, they do things out of the ordinary to protect the peace and the welfare. I mean, nobody wants to go to a place if you're doing a concert or a show or a gig or something and there are unruly elements around. People want to know that they're protected. They want to know that they're not going to get bum rushed by some crazy, ludicrous audience members. And so that's why you have police protection and things like that. Like, we understand that. But in most of these situations, police show up late. When they get there, they don't have any understanding of context. They have no understanding of emotional intelligence. They're not able to assess the situation and see that people are hurting, they're grieving, and they're in need of assistance. I don't understand how on several occasions now we've got these police officers who are showing up to places where the resident actually called them and asked for help. How does the resident end up dying? I mean, it's crazy. You know, and now I don't know the statistics on how many police officers have been gunned down or, you know, but I know police officers do die in the line of duty, right? But my guess is that there have probably been way more people killed at the hands of police than have police been killed by the hands of civilians. And in those wild events where police are killed, it's normally a rogue element, normally somebody involved in criminal activity or a bank robbery where they're heavily armed or something like that. But the general everyday 911 call or welfare home check call, that should go peacefully. There should be no death there. That lady was alive and well. She called y'all for help. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Trump getting in office. In this country, humans tend to look at the office of the presidency, see who the official leader is, and then that aura takes shape within the population. You're going to see a lot of Trumpian energy, particularly in his followers. But you're going to start to see that general spirit of Trump's nature start to take hold in the population. I know when Obama was elected, talking to a lot of friends, a lot of people that I know, they saw Obama as a beacon of light in a sense. Hope, right? Change. So you actually started to see more black men pulling up their pants here and there. I remember even talking to some guys that I know, you know, they do some shady things. I remember back in like 2008, they were like, nah, we're not riding tonight because Obama got elected. They had respect for the position and for the fact that a black man entered that office. And so they kind of carry themselves like that. And I feel like when Trump comes in, you're going to start to see a lot of unearned self-esteem. Some of these people who, just by the nature of the fact that they're white and they feel like Trump represents them, they're going to feel empowered, like they can do things, you know, and they're going to be okay. Because to them, Trump represents a restoration of like the old guard, the old good old white boy club, where basically anything we say goes. If we don't know you, you don't matter. And whatever you say that you want, if you don't have the power and influence to implement your own changes, it ain't going to happen. We're not going to support you. You don't look like us. Y'all not like us. Basically, that's what these boys are going to be saying once they get into office. Let's be real. America has never been a nation that was kind to black people. Even when Obama was in office, even when Democrats are in charge, you still got rampant housing issues, rampant homelessness, poor education in a lot of our rural and inner city schools. You still have discrimination in work and in positions of prestige where qualified black people are being turned down and told no, they can't get these positions. You still have the general feel of the culture. There are interviews that ask white people what their issues are with black people. Some people will say stupid things like, oh, they smell bad, or they're dirty. Or then sometimes you see like the unspoken timidness. I think her name is like Jane, but she's like the really old, sweet white lady whose whole campaign is like anti-racism. I remember she asked this question in a TED Talk where her audience, she goes, if today you could switch places with a black person, how many of you would be black? For me, it would probably be like, how many of you would trade places with a black person for a year?
I want every white person in this room.
If you ask that same question to a black audience, how many of y'all would want to be white? I'm pretty sure the majority of black people would say, nah, we don't want to be white. Then people are crazy. But I feel like you have more people in that black crowd who would raise their hand and say, I want to be white. You've heard Amber Rose in an interview. Now, I don't know her genealogy, her breakdown. She says she doesn't identify as a black woman.
I do not consider myself a black woman. Absolutely not.
She definitely has a lot of different features that different ethnicities possess across the world. So I can't say for sure. But then you get like people like Raven Simone who says, you know, she's not black.
I want to be labeled a human who loves humans. I'm tired of being labeled. I'm an American. I'm not an African American. I'm an American.
Oh, girl, don't set up the Twitter.
And I understand where they're coming from the standpoint of like, you don't want to be held down by the concept of race. But you generally don't hear white people going around saying, I'm not white. And why is that? It's because they're part of the dominant race. They're quick to check white on a census box. They're quick to check white on an application or on a form where they're being approved for a home. I'm black. I always pick other because naturally I have some of everything in me. There's no way I could be this color and not have some white or some Asian or whatever in me. Yes, I'm black. I also see myself as mixed race. A strong majority of humans are actually mixed race. And sometimes we can't even tell. You could have somebody who's a dark complexion and they have a Chinese grandmother, a African father, a white mom, and a a black dad. Like, you know what I'm saying? And this person can have a darker skin tone than somebody like me. It's so tough to tell who and what people are, so I understand why people don't want to identify. The other thing is too, I know if I put black on an application or something, there is a possibility that I might not get picked for the thing. So if I say other or mixed race, I'm not lying, because there's a long history, a long legacy of migration of peoples across the globe ever since humans have been here. So we don't know who we're mixed up with, who we're tied with. We only know who our parents are. So I get that. And at the end of the day, we're all human. But we know that there have been studies done where identical applications, identical documents that were needed to hire someone for a job were submitted to a company. The only difference was that on one application or one set of documents, the name of the applicant was John Deere, white is white, John Smith. But then on another application, you might have Dwayne Jackson. We know that's a black guy. Or Letitia Johnson. We know that these are black names. And what would happen is that in just about every case, the jobs would turn down the applications or the documents that had, or they would more harshly critique the documents. Because sometimes this was like in a legal setting. So they would submit legal documents to like law firm partners. And they would put a white name on one legal document and a black name on another. And they would criticize that document harshly if it said Dwayne Jackson on it. They would say, oh, this is an incompetent writer, whatever. But the same document with the same little error or typos or whatever was submitted by somebody white, and they judged that document less harshly. They even made comments like, oh, this is good work, this is good effort. We still live in this kind of world. And so that's why Sonya Massey could be gunned down, because people don't value black lives. And this is where the whole thing about Black Lives Matter came from. It's the concept, it's the spirit of the idea that black lives matter. We're human beings too. If I call you to come to my home and you're getting paid, it's my tax money that's paying you. I call you to come to my home to check on my surroundings to see if somebody has intruded into my house, and you end up killing me. That whole Sonya Massey thing just got me real hot. I guess we're gonna see what happens, man. Peace.